I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how much time I have left. If you're hearing this, it's because I've already started reading the manuscript. And if the manuscript is right, and so far it hasn't been wrong about a single thing, I won't make it to dawn. But I need someone to know what happened here. I need someone to understand what this house is. What it has always been. What I have always been, even though I don't fully understand it yet. It all started with a letter. My name is Hugo Valls. I'm 31 years old, an antique dealer in Barcelona, and until 3 weeks ago I led a life anyone would call ordinary. I bought and sold old things. Furniture, clocks, books nobody wanted. I lived alone in a 40 square meter flat in the Rovell, with a cat named Poe, yes, after Edgar Allan, though I've never been able to fully explain why that name felt like the only possible one, and a collection of debts that grew faster than my business. My mother died 4 years ago. After that, old objects became the only thing that made me feel anything. There's a strange intimacy in touching things that belong to others. As if the wood and the metal held something of whoever touched them before. As if they could remember. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Just my name written in calligraphy so perfect it looked printed, but when you ran your finger over it you could feel the pressure of the nib against the paper. Someone had written it by hand. With care. With intent. The way one signs a sentence and wants it to look beautiful. It said, "Dear Mr. Valls, I regret to inform you of the passing of your uncle, Aran Aldric. As sole heir, you are entitled to the property known as Casa Aldric, in the Aran Valley. We ask that you present yourself at your earliest convenience. Time, as you will discover, is a resource the house does not grant generously. I don't have uncles. My mother was an only child. Or so she had told me all my life. I did what any sensible person with debts and no prospects would do, I looked into it. Aran Aldric existed. Or had existed. His name appeared in a civil registry from 1987, linked to my mother's elder brother. Never mentioned. Erased from the family history with the same efficiency with which you erase an ink stain if you act quickly enough. My mother died 4 years ago. I could no longer ask her anything. And I realized something that turned my stomach. The letter had arrived at the precise moment when there was nobody left who could talk me out of going. As if someone, or something, had been waiting. I drove 6 hours from Barcelona. The last 2, along a road my GPS refused to recognize. The trees closed over the asphalt like the fingers of an enormous hand, and the evening light barely managed to filter through the branches. There was something in that forest that did not want to be crossed. Or that wanted me to keep going. Sometimes those two things look too much alike. When the valley opened before me, I saw it. Casa Aldric was not a house. It was a declaration. 3 stories of grey stone, elongated windows like half-shut eyes, and a tower on the east wing that leaned barely a degree to the left, as if the entire building were listening to something coming from the ground. Something only it could hear. The garden was dead. Not neglected, dead. As if every plant had decided, in the same instant, that it was no longer worth the effort to keep growing. But the stone of the facade was immaculate. No moss, no cracks. As if someone had been caring for it. Or as if the stone cared for itself. I parked in front of the main door. It was oak, darkened by centuries, with an iron knocker in the shape of a hand holding a sphere. When I touched it, it was warm. It was 7 in the evening on a Friday in November in the Pyrenees. Nothing should have been warm. The iron should have burned with cold. But the knocker was warm like the skin of something alive. Like a mouth opening. And my hand did not pull away. My fingers closed around the knocker as if they already knew its shape. As if they had touched it before. 1,000 times. The door opened on its own. Not with a dramatic creak. It opened in silence, smooth, slow, like a long, deep inhalation. As if the house had been holding its breath and could finally let the air out. The vestibule smelled of old paper and something sweet I couldn't identify. Something between honey and metal. A scent that belonged to no place I knew, yet was strangely familiar. Like a perfume you don't remember smelling but your body recognizes. There was dust on every surface. But on the floor, a clean path. Not footprints. Long, continuous grooves. As if someone, or something, had dragged an enormous weight down the corridor again and again, for years, always following the same route. From the library to the front door. From the front door to the library. A circuit that repeated endlessly, like the passage of an organ that cannot stop functioning. I walked the ground floor. A kitchen left intact, as if someone had cooked yesterday and forgotten to come back. A sitting room with furniture covered by white sheets that, in the waning light, looked like figures kneeling in prayer. And every mirror I found was covered. All of them. Black cloth nailed over the frames, as if someone had decided this house must not see its own reflection. And at the far end, the library. The library was impossible. Too large for the house that contained it, as if the walls had stepped aside to make room. As if everything else, the kitchen, the sitting room, the bedrooms, existed only because the library needed a body around it. Thousands of books. On shelves, on the floor, stacked in towers that defied gravity and common sense. Some were open, as if someone had left them mid-sentence and bolted. And in the center, on a lectern of carved wood with motifs that looked like roots, or veins, an open manuscript. It had no title. No author. Just a first page with a single sentence, written in the same perfect calligraphy as the letter. Hugo Valls arrived at Casa Aldric on a Friday, at 7:15 in the evening. It was cold and the door was warm. I looked at my watch. 7:15. I felt the air in the room thicken. It didn't grow cold. It became dense, heavy, as if the house had just exhaled all the air it had been holding for years. And in that air there was something. Not a smell. Not a sound. A presence. Like when you walk into a room where someone has been crying and is gone, but the weight of their sadness is still there, floating. I should have left. I know that. But I'm an antique dealer. Impossible objects are my weakness and my curse. All my life I've felt that old things call to me. That they need me. That I understand them in a way I can't explain. I never asked myself why. Perhaps I should have. I sat down and read. The manuscript described my arrival with a precision that went beyond unsettling. The color of my car, a gray Peugeot, the same gray as the stone of the facade, and for the first time that coincidence struck me as something more than coincidence. The cat embroidered on my scarf, a gift from my mother I'd never told anyone about. The scratch on my left hand that I'd given myself that very morning opening a cardboard box. Every detail was correct. Every detail was impossible. And it continued. Hugo will read these pages with skepticism at first. Then with fascination. Then with fear. He will search for rational explanations. He will check the house for cameras. He will find none. Not because no one is watching, but because the observer and the observed are the same thing. That last sentence stopped me. I didn't understand it. But something in my stomach did. I checked the house for cameras. I found none. At 9:12, Hugo will hear a sound from upstairs. something between a sigh and the creak of old wood. He will decide it is the wind, because the alternative is unacceptable. At 9:12, I heard it. Not like any ordinary noise. Like something I had been expecting to hear. Like a phrase you recognize in a language you don't speak. I decided it was the wind, because the alternative was unacceptable. At 10 o'clock, he will find Arnaud's bedroom. The door will be ajar. Inside he will see an unmade bed, a mirror covered with black cloth, and a clock stopped at 3 minutes past 3 in the morning. I didn't want to go up. Something inside me begged me not to. But my legs moved on their own, as if they knew the way. Not like someone remembering a place they visited once. Like someone coming home after a long time away. My feet knew where the creaking step was. My hands knew the banister curves left at the landing. My body knew things my mind did not. The door was ajar. The bed, unmade, with the imprint of a body sunk into the mattress like a wound. The mirror, covered with black cloth that seemed to absorb the little light coming through the window. And the clock stopped. 3:03. I stood staring at the hands. There was something hypnotic about that hour. 3:03. 2 threes. Like a code no one had taught me to decipher, but that I recognized somewhere deep in my memory. Not in my brain. Deeper. In the bones. In the stone beneath the bones. I went back to the library. I needed to know what else the manuscript said. I needed to know how it ended. I turned pages. Many. Some had been torn out, the ragged edges jutting from the spine like broken teeth. Whoever did it had done it in desperation. Not with care. With their hands. But at the end, on the last written page, I found this. Hugo will die in Casa Aldric. Not because of what is inside the house, but because of what the house will awaken inside him. And beneath it, in a different hand, trembling, uneven, written in haste or in terror, in a darkening that could have been blood, 5 words. Don't finish reading. Please. I read them 3 times. There was something in that handwriting that hurt me without my knowing why. It didn't frighten me. It made me sad. As if whoever wrote it wasn't scared, but broken. As if they had tried to save me many times and had failed every single one. I closed the manuscript. I sat motionless in the darkness of the library, the brain of the house, I thought, without knowing why, listening to my own breathing and something else. A sound coming from the walls. From all the walls at once. A rhythm. Slow. Steady. Deep. Like the sea in a cave. Like the blood in your temples when you cover your ears. The house was breathing. Not as a metaphor. Not as an acoustic illusion produced by old pipes or drafts. The walls were expanding and contracting. Barely a millimeter. But constant. Rhythmic. Alive. I pressed my hand to my chest. My heart was beating. And the walls were moving at exactly the same tempo. I held my breath. The walls stopped. I breathed. The walls breathed. I breathed faster. The walls quickened. It wasn't that the house was imitating me. It was that we were synchronized. Like 2 instruments playing the same score. Like 2 lungs in the same body. Then I understood what the phrase in the manuscript meant. What the house would awaken inside me. It wasn't fear. It wasn't madness. It was something worse than both. It was recognition. I looked at my hands. At the base of my index finger, where that morning there had been a simple scratch, there was now a thin line that stretched to the wrist. It wasn't blood. It wasn't dirt. It was grey. The exact same grey as the stone of the walls. The same grey as my car. The same grey that had been surrounding me all my life without my noticing. I tried to rub it off. It wouldn't go. It wasn't on the skin. It was the skin. My skin was turning into the same stone as the house. Or it was remembering that it had always been stone. That was 3 hours ago. The grey line has reached my elbow. I'm sitting in the library. The manuscript is still open in front of me. There are pages I haven't read. Pages someone tore out with their bare hands so I couldn't read them. And that warning, those 5 words written in a hand broken with sadness, stares at me from the last page like a prayer that arrived too late. Don't finish reading. Please. But I need to know what's on the missing pages. I need to know who tore them out. I need to know why the manuscript knows me better than I know myself. Why my legs knew where the step creaks. Why my hand knew the shape of the knocker. Why all my life I've felt that old objects were calling to me, and I never thought to ask who was calling. And I need to know what happens at 3:03 in the morning. Because our Nonau's clock stopped at that hour for a reason. And I have the feeling, no, the certainty, that when that hour comes, the house will show me something I cannot undo. Because it is midnight. And the house has started breathing faster. The next chapter will be released when there are 5 of us. 5 people who know what is happening in this house. 5 witnesses. Subscribe. Not for my sake. For what happens if no one listens?